Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's just Kat. Today is the final day of part 3 to the trilogy of my birth story. It's been interesting just kind of going back through everything, talking about my past experiences, old feelings that I thought I, had gotten over but only buried. I think the most important and surprising part of this whole journey was just to recollect how God has always been there for me. I know in part 2 I kind of got emotional with just realizing all that He's done for me, especially in that season of my life. And to just say it out loud, I knew it, internally, but to say those things out loud of all the little things that He pulled up on me for, with just supplying a home and supplying security and protection and provision for me and my daughter. It's just been amazing to see just how much he cared, how much He was in the minor details, the major details, and everything in between, and just seeing how He's present in my life even now. So it's just amazing to be able to tell this testimony and just to see the goodness of God woven in to all of it. So if you have not seen part 1 and part 2, you can go back to my channel and play those. I'm gonna get right into part 3. I think this is like the most dramatic part of my birth story, only because I almost died. And I know we talk about we've had a conversation, but anyway, there has been talk about African American women and the mortality rate giving birth, the high mortality rate giving birth, and when I really think about that reality for so many people, I could have been one of them. When I think about just the medical interventions that happened during giving birth to my daughter, and if it was 20 years prior to now, I probably wouldn't have made it. So it even in that is a testimony to God just protecting me and making sure I came out on the other end okay. So without further ado, okay, let's see. I don't know where I ended off at the last portion, but we moved back to around my hometown. So I'll start with that. So I ended up packing my apartment where we were to move back to my hometown. I was in my last day of my job at the daycare was in my 9th month. So I was like right at the cutoff. And I packed everything. It was surreal and it was bittersweet because half of me wanted to stay. I loved the life that I had built. Not all the marriage drama, but like just the friends that I was able to have, and it was the people that really made the place home for me. Out of 8 years, that's a pretty long time to be in one spot. So I really did develop a lot of close relationships that I still think about even to this day. And if you're listening, hi. So it was bittersweet because I wanted to leave, right? The apartment that we were in was just not good. And just the situation, I think I wanted a new start. Because because essentially that would have given me more hope within the situation of my marriage. In my head, new baby, new place to stay, new environment, new jobs, new people would hopefully cultivate just new attitude for me and my ex. And I was hoping that that was going to just be enough to get through what we were trying to get through in our marriage. And then with the expectancy of having a baby, we were excited about that. Just as new parents, having her finally being with us physically, in our arms. I think that was the excitement as well. So, and then, obviously just bitter because I had to leave, the family. My friends became my family out there. So I had to leave, essentially family, to have this new start. But, in retrospect, and even in that situation, I knew God was moving. I knew it was God. The fact that he even opened the door for us to move out there, and everything aligned with, having our parents plan to watch our daughter, while I was planning on going to work after 3 months of maternity leave. And then with my ex, searching for a job, and he usually did night shifts, so that was just a blessing within itself. And then I think another confirmation on us moving, of knowing that we should be moving to where we were planning to move, was that I ended up getting a job. I didn't. Okay, so let me backtrack. I was applying for jobs, before I moved out there. And I told myself and others around me, I said, and I even prayed this, and I remember, I prayed this. I said, Lord, just give me 3 months. 3 months. And I prayed it because obviously, like, the money. I wasn't going to be working for a whole 3 months. We were moving. My ex hadn't landed a job yet. And I wasn't able to get the disability that I needed or that I wanted to be able to make ends meet for that 3 months that I was out of work. So I remember praying that, just 3 months. So, and then the job ended up coming literally the first day I started my new job in my hometown was the Monday after my 3 months ended. It was exactly 3 months. So thank you, Jesus. But anyway, so we moved, packed all of our crap, moved to our hometown. I unpacked everything. Mind you, I'm like a balloon. Okay. And I was just moving. I was so determined to just finally feel secure and safe and make a new home that, I kind of set aside the nervousness of giving birth and focused on what I had to do, which was nest. I mean, I had to unpack everything, make sure everything was clean, decorate her room, make sure all the clothes were clean, all the donations that I got, I had to wash it all, hang it all up, So I was definitely in my nesting era. So she was due at the end of July. And so the heat was definitely real. And as days went by, as it got closer and closer and closer, I got more nervous. I didn't have a name for her yet. Um, it was just, it was becoming more real. And I actually started doing some research because I'm a nerd like that. And I don't know if you guys, and I haven't looked it up. Um, I should look it up. I'll put it in the comments. Of this documentary Ricky Lake did about birthing in America, and um, very much a holistic approach to giving birth. The natural way women's bodies are created to give birth, and just documenting other moms going through the birthing process, and just kind of exposing the ins and outs of medical facilities and how they approach birth. So it was very interesting to me, and I got encouraged and started my own birthing plan. I wanted no epidural, um, because I till this day, I mean, I believe that, if a woman was made to give birth, she can give birth, right? And I know the pain. Believe me, I'll get to that in a minute. The pain is a lot. But I really wanted to not only stay safe for me and my child, but sorry, my dog was literally making too much noise. Not only stay safe for me and my daughter, just because I believe that, the epidural would have just negatively affect the birthing process, but I knew in my heart that I was capable of doing it, and I wanted to give birth naturally. So I wrote down everything that I needed. I let my ex know this is what I want, just in case I end up, freaking out. I need you to be my advocate and let the doctor know I don't want an epidural. So weeks go by, and it's past her due date, and my water doesn't break, nothing's happening. I'm getting like little Braxton Hicks, but it wasn't enough to like sound the alarm. And so we start Googling ways to start the birthing process. And I think papaya was like on that list. So my ex made me like a papaya smoothie. And no lie, within 24 hours, I was in labor. I don't know if it was the papaya, or it was just time, but she started making her way down the canal at that point. So I ended up getting kind of freaked out just because the contractions, they weren't close together, but they were intense. And I went to the hospital. And I kick myself every time I think about it, but I let fear take over. And the doctor had asked me, do you want an epidural? Because now's the time. Now that the pain is mild, and we're in a space right now where you can get the epidural. Do you want an epidural? I said, no, I'm going to do this naturally. And he was like, all right. Literally 30 minutes later, do you want the epidural? Your window's closing to get it. You'll be more comfortable, yada, yada, yada. I said no. An hour later, he comes back. And okay, so this whole time I'm getting more nervous. Because it was, and I felt pressure, right? And this was actually in the documentary, and I should have like put the 2 and 2 together, but I felt pressure from the doctor, and then I started second guessing myself. Maybe I should get the epidural. Maybe he is right. Maybe I should be more comfortable so I can focus, and maybe I can't do this. All I have is, at the time, my husband, and he don't know what the heck to do. And I just felt alone. I felt scared. I was thinking about all the what ifs, um, on both sides of getting the epidural and not getting the epidural. And I ended up just caving in at that point. I said, he came back a fourth time. No, the third time. Third or fourth time. And I was like, you know what? Let's just do it. And as I said it, as I told him, I immediately regretted it. But I just thought, since I said it, like, there's no going back. They're going to be setting up everything, blah, blah. So they prep me. So we call the family, right? They're on their way, whatever. And so, not whatever, but like, you know, all the families come in. I call them the brigade. They were coming. And then they prepped me for an epidural. A resident did it. I think he did it wrong just because my spine feels weird ever since he did the epidural. And then they wheeled me back to the room. It was a good 30 minutes, and I was told the epidural should kick in right away. You'll feel numbness. You won't feel any contractions. We're going to still monitor you. Your water hasn't broke yet. We're going to manually break it. You won't feel that. But when the water breaks, you'll feel pressure, but not pain. I said, okay. Oh, and by the way, you can't eat. I said, okay, even though I was like starving. So they wheel me back to my room. I'm just laying there and I'm feeling crampy. And I'm like, but they said I shouldn't be feeling any pain. And then they start getting worse. And then they break my water and then they get more intense. And I'm like, after about a good hour or two, I'm like grasping the rail in fetal position because I can feel these contractions. And I remember the nurse comes in and she's looking at me, and the machine is kind of like behind me, so I can't really see like the readings of the contractions and the heartbeat and all that stuff. So she's looking at the monitor, and I'm like, ooh, as a contraction is coming, and she's like, you can feel that? And I said, uh-huh. And she's like, but didn't you get the epidural? And I said, uh-huh. And she's like, yeah, you're not supposed to feel that. And I'm like, well, I'm feeling all the feels right now, okay? My whole body's on fire. Like, the whole ring of fire was happening. And on top of that, my family comes in with In-N-Out, and I'm starving. I was so irritated. Anyway, so it didn't take long. It felt like it didn't take long. I think it took all day, but you know, who's counting the hours? And they were like, all right, you're ready to push. I was feeling this, like a feeling of just bearing down. Like it was just this, like it was the sensation of having just to push. That's the best way I can describe it. Maybe like trying to go to the bathroom, to be real. But the pressure in my stomach, I needed to just push. So they were like, you're ready, let's do this. So like all American hospitals, they lay you on your back, which is so against the gravity of when a baby needs to come out of your body. They lay you on your back. It's almost counterproductive at that point, but anyway. So they laid me on my back. I started pushing, pushed, nothing. And then finally, some leeway happened, but then like she retracted and was like, nope, not coming out. So I pushed for a good 3 hours. It wasn't light pushing. It was very intense pushing. To the point where I think the last hour they gave me like a bar to like hold on to be able to like push, I guess. I don't know. And I remember my ex, God bless him, he said, "She's crowning. Push harder." And I looked at that boy. I tried not to kill him. I didn't kill him, but I tried not to like choke him, you know? I looked at him and I said, "I am pushing." With all the intensity in my eyes. And I was like, "If you tell me to push one more time." And he was like, all right, I'm just saying, she's right there. I said, "I know. Back up," right? Because I was just a hot mess. I looked like who done it, okay? It was just bad. Anyway, so 3 hours go by. I'm exhausted at this point, like physically, mentally, emotionally exhausted. But I'm still having the urge to push. They end up realizing that her heartbeat like is crashing. And then I think my heartbeat was rising. It was just some weird stuff going on. So they made the call to give me emergency C-section. They made it very clear that that there was no something was going on with the fluid in the sac, that my baby could be having an infection somehow because the heart rate went down. Like, we got to get her out now. So they gave me a paper to sign. Really quick, they went through all the ins and outs, the pros and cons, and they were like, "Just sign it so we can get this baby out." I said, "Yes, ma'am." I signed it. I didn't know what all an emergency C-section was. I mean, I was old enough to know, but I was just naive, and I was in the space of like delirium at that point and exhaustion. But I looked past the nurse and I saw my mom kind of behind the partition, and she was like crying her eyes out, and I'm like, "Oh crap." Like, I think at that moment I was kind of like looking around because I'm like, is it that serious? And like, you just try to read the faces around you. And so the nurses were very much like busy bees, kind of like getting everything together, like prepping me, all that stuff. And then my ex looked really worried. My mom was crying, and I'm like, this could possibly end very badly for me and my baby. But how do I say it? I knew the reality of the situation. I really did. When I really looked at all the faces and just kind of took a step back mentally and realized like, oh, like I'm being rushed to an operating table. I knew that things could happen, but then at the same time, like, that was my time to just look to God in that moment. And again, it was like, let your will be done, Lord. And it's a weird moment when you have no control. And I think this is the second time within this birth story that I've said that, where it's just like, you literally have no control. I had no control of what was going to happen next. I knew that I couldn't push anymore. This baby was not going to come out the way naturally, right? The way I wanted her to. She had to come out through C-section. How that ended, it was in the doctor's hands, right? And at that moment, it was just like, okay, if I die, I mean, I die. If my baby doesn't make it, there's nothing I can do, And that's a scary place to be, but That's a scary place to be if you don't have God. And I truly believe that. It's a scary place to be when you have no control and all your options have run out, and all you have is, okay, well, so be it. Whatever happens, happens. That's real scary if you don't have God. If you're not able to put all of that and give it to him. And thank God I had God. Thank God, because I was just praying the whole way to the operating table. And it was just like, it is what it is. So we get to the operating table, the operating room, and because I had an epidural, they were like, okay, so we're gonna push the numbing meds through the IV that we've already set up for you. It's gonna go through, I don't know the avenue, because they put so it's gonna go through my arm, but because I already had the epidural, it shouldn't take that long to take effect because I already had numbing medicine in my body. That was it. And so the anesthesiologist came and, described everything of what was going to happen. He was like, we're going to give you a dose. It should take we're going to wait 5, maybe 10 minutes before they start operating. I said, okay. It was really cold in the room too, and I was so tired. And so they pushed the meds, waited a good 5-10 minutes, and came back. And he was like, I'm going to take this pin and I'm going to push in your thigh to see if, and in your thigh and in your side to see if you feel it. Let me know. And so he pushed, and I was like, oh, I feel that. And he looked at me, he was like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I even without even looking at you, I feel the pin digging into my skin. And he was like, okay, that's weird because you're not that big. Naturally, I mean, you're 4'11", you shouldn't be taking all these meds. It should be taking effect pretty quickly. And I was like, well, it's not. So I'm gonna need you to pump me with more because I don't want to feel anything during my C-section. So he agreed. And so he came back with another dose. He was like, all right, I'm going to give you one last dose, but if you can feel the pin digging into your thigh and your side after this last dose, we're going to have an issue because I can't, literally legally can't give you any more of these meds. And I said, okay. So thankfully it worked. They went right into cutting me open. They were like, you're going to feel a push and a tug and a pull and all that stuff, which I did. And there was silence right before she came out. And all I heard was a little cry and then a stop. Like she was choking. And I immediately, because I can't see anything. So I turn to my ex and he's like, and I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, it's fine. They just took her to in the back. I said, what back? Where are they taking my baby? And what's going on? Tell me what you see. And he was like, a lot of blood. And I was like, okay, that's normal. I'm getting past all that. I'm like, where's my kid? Where are they taking my kid? Is my kid okay? And I was like, you need to go after them. Follow her. Don't worry about me. Follow her. And so he was like, yeah, but there's a lot of blood. And I said, okay, that's normal. They're working on it. They're sewing me up. Just go follow the kid. And at that point, he just looked at me with all the fear in his eyes and he said, don't go to sleep. I said, what are you talking about? Just go follow the kid. And he was like, just please don't fall asleep. You're losing a lot of blood. And at that moment, I was like, okay, something's off. The look that he has in his eyes is not normal. I am feeling really tired and sluggish. and I didn't know if that was, I mean, it could have partly been because of exhaustion, but I was feeling a little wonky. And then the fact that I didn't know where my kid was, or if she was like fine or okay or whatever, was getting to me, you know? And I said, please just go be with the kid. Like, go to her. I want to make sure that she's okay. And he was like, okay, but I'm telling you, please promise me that you don't fall asleep. I said, okay, I got it. Go. So he went. I ended up dozing off just because I couldn't help it. They sewed me up, and I remember being so out of it. I don't, they wheeled me, and it almost like felt like one of those like horror movies where all I saw was like the tops of the lights on the ceilings of the hallway, and it was like doof, 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 like pitch black and then light, pitch black and then light. And then I turned to my right because we stopped. I turned to my right. I saw somebody like hold out my baby. I kissed her on the forehead, and then they retrieved her back, and then the bed just started moving, and I'm like, is this a movie? Like, what's going on? I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone because I'm like, I just saw my baby, but now she's gone. Like, what are these lights? And then I started convulsing. Yay, fun times. I started shaking uncontrollably. And I think I was told at that time that I had a really bad infection, that my baby also had an infection, and that she was going to go to the ICU. And now just talking with people at work and stuff about the meds that they give you, I think it was a reaction to the medications as well, that my body was kind of going into this shock. But I could not stop shaking. Even if I willed myself not to, I was able to like stop shaking by full will for like 3 seconds, and then I just started like literally, it looked like I don't know if you've ever seen somebody have now I can't even think about it. What is that word? I'm losing my words today. Anyway, let me keep going. Yeah, I was just shaking uncontrollably. And that lasted it felt like forever. But I think it lasted a couple of hours until the medication just wore off. And then they wheeled me to my room, fell asleep, woke up, and was like, where's my kid? Mind you, my hair at the time was like fairly long. When I touched it, it was like this. Okay, I mean, I have a little bob in the back, but like I had no hair in a ponytail, but it was so sweated out that my afro went to like a no fro. Like, it was so packed on my head, and I couldn't even like run my fingers through it. That's how gross it was. My mouth was dry. I felt just gross. Like, on top of sweating for 3 hours of pushing with the medication going through my system, and sweating that out. And then I had a fever. I just felt like crap. And then I was feeling nauseous because of the C-section. I felt like the most, like, it was just gross. Everything was gross. So I'm asking, where's my child? They're like, she's in the ICU. I'm like, well, she needs to breastfeed. I want skin to skin. When can you, like, I've been out for like a whole day. She needs to feed, right? So the nurses give me the runaround. I'm like, just tell me straight, like, what's going on? And so they're like, we can't wheel her down. You're going to have to go to her We've already given her a bottle and a pacifier. And I'm like, great, thank you. So, so I'm like, okay, so just wheel me to her bedside, and so I can finally like actually hold my child and see my child after like 24 hours of not being with her. And they're like, well, we can't. And I said, why not? They said, well, you're going to have to get in your wheelchair by yourself in order for us to wheel you there. I didn't like that. And I admittedly got a real attitude. And so I looked at my ex and I said, get me in the shower, get me dressed. I'm going to go see my child within the next 24 hours. And so he was like, yeah, but you can. I was like, don't tell me I can't, because I will, with or without you. So he called for the nurse. I said, what do I got to do to like keep this incision clean because I'm jumping in the shower? And she's like, no, like you can't move. You just had surgery. You can't take a shower. You just had surgery. And there's some medical things that like the doctor has to talk to you about because you just had surgery. I said, I don't care about any of that. You're telling me that I can't see my kid, so I'm going to do what it needs to take to see my kid. So I said, ma'am, I'm getting in the shower with or without you. I was so hard-headed, but I wanted to see my kid. So she was like, okay, well, I'll get you like wraps, whatever, to get in the shower. So my ex helped me get in the shower. I felt halfway decent, halfway human. And that was and then they said, oh, well, you're gonna have to walk down the hall and back on top of getting in the wheelchair myself. I said, okay, whatever y'all put out, like, come on, I'm gonna do it. So I got in the shower. I ended up walking down the hall and back, and the nurses, the doctors, and the residents all looked at me like, what are you doing? And I said, I'm gonna see my kid. That's what I'm doing. They were like, you should be in bed. I said, no, sir. No, ma'am. I want to see my kid. So they were like, okay, just wheel her, get her wheelchair and take her to go see her baby. And I said, thank you. That's all I was asking for. So I went to go see her. It was the most precious time of my life. One of the most precious times of just seeing the child that you incubated for 9 months. She was finally there in the flesh. I was able to do skin to skin, just able to just be with her, close my eyes, pray over her, thank the Lord for her, stare at her, stare more at her, ask all the questions to the nurse. I got irritated because like she literally was not latching on to me. And I was like, thanks a lot. But besides all that, she was healthy. I mean, she had IVs all over her. But it wasn't going to be a long time until she could come home. I think they wanted to just monitor her for a couple of days, and that was it. So I ended up going back to the room, and I got told that I needed 2 blood transfusions because I had lost a lot of blood, and I was at that level of just, I don't know what the level's called, but basically it was like a really, really bad level, okay? Needing 2 blood transfusions. Again, I was hard-headed. I didn't know the process at the time. It creeped me out, actually. And it took a solo visit from one of the residents. She was another Black woman that was a resident there, and she just sat down on the bed and was really kind and patient with me, explaining the process of what happened, where my body is at, and what could potentially happen if I don't get these blood transfusions. She explained to me the process of how they test the blood and how they would administer the blood. And I really needed that explanation because the doctor that was that was assigned to me didn't do any of that, and I didn't understand. So I really do appreciate her taking the time to just come on my level, and explain to me from my level of understanding of what medically was happening and what was going on. So I ended up compromising. I didn't do 2 blood transfusions. I did 1, and she was like, I'll take it, but if your numbers don't come up the way we would like them to, and if you feel some type of way, we're gonna have to do 2. And I said, okay, agreed. So the 1 was fine. I ended up doing the 1, and then the next day I was able to go home with our child, and it was in the middle of summer, and our car broke down on the way. And let me tell you, God was all over the situation, because we broke down right in the middle, right in the middle of the street, in front of a tattoo parlor. And by the time I could get out of the car, because we didn't have air conditioning either. We had a hoopty-doop as a car. And so it was like 100 and something that day. So taking a newborn into that kind of weather, I didn't have shoes on. I had one of those fluffy socks. My hair was a hot mess still. I just felt so ugh. But at the time that we stopped, the car stopped. By the time I got to the sidewalk to get out of the car, get my kid out of the car, this guy just walked out of the it was almost like he was expecting us, which is really weird to say, but it was all God. So I mean, I don't put it past him. He just walked out, and he was like, do you guys need help? And we were like, yeah, our car broke down. I just had a kid. We're on our way home. We live down the street, or further down the street, but we're not far away. And then our family's behind us, but we don't know what to do with their car because we don't have any money to get it towed. He was like, if you guys can help me, if your husband, and I think my brother-in-law was in the car at that time too, if they can help me push the car, you guys can keep the car in our parking lot until you can find some way to get it towed to a mechanic or to your home. And he didn't put a time limit. So I know that was God. And I was like, thank you so much. So he was like, do you guys have a ride? I was like, yeah, my mom's, a couple of cars behind us. So he was like, all right, well, if you guys need anything, let me know and I'll be happy to help. So I was like, okay. So we got in the car with my mom, drove home, got home, and that's the end. That's not the end, but that's the end of this video. So that was a lot. It's 43 minutes. Ugh. Sorry, y'all. Am I sorry though? No, because I asked the Lord to help me say all that I needed to say, and that was it. So it was drama. Yeah, it was definitely drama. And I know I kind of bleeped over the spiritual stuff. I mean, I kind of got into it, but God was all over that situation. Like I said before, if this was 20 years ago, or if I didn't have God, all the what ifs, my situation I really believe that the Lord's angels were protecting me that day and my daughter, and without him, I wouldn't be living. I would have bled out on that table. With all that was going on, there was definitely a presence of him in the operating room, in my room, in the delivery room, all the rooms. My family was very supportive. I mean, to this day, they're supportive, but they were really supportive throughout the whole birthing process, at the hospital, and then when I brought my kid home, they were there. They took shifts. I used to call my cousin because she lived in the same apartment complex. And I was like so scared of like leaving my kid alone that even to take a shower, like I needed to like have eyes on her, especially because she had acid reflux and more drama. She choked and almost choked to death. If it wasn't for my ex doing infant CPR, after her turning literally blue and purple in the face, she would have died. So after that, I was very paranoid of like always keeping my eyes on her. And so I used to call my cousin to come over just so she can watch my kid so I can take a shower. Like that's the kind of support I got. So I want to just take this moment to just say thank you to all my friends and even to all my family and even all my friends that supported me throughout beginning to end of this whole birth story, from the time I, knew I was pregnant to the time and the months after I brought my baby home. Like, you guys really did keep me from going crazy. I mean, the Lord really kept me from going crazy, but He definitely placed y'all in my life to just pull up and support me and do what you had to do. Even though sometimes it was inconvenient for you, you still did it on behalf of me and my kid. And so I thank you for all your support, all your love, and even now, all my family and friends that just continue to give me encouragement and support and are there for me. Thank you. I don't really say that a lot. I should, but I don't. I love you guys. I think that's it. I think I'm done. The Holy Spirit was like, okay, we're done. So, yeah, I don't know what the next video is going to be. I'm going to pray over it. But yeah, you guys, thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe. I feel like I have to say this. I mean, y'all know what to do. Y'all aren't newbies on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, comment, share, do all the things that you do to support your YouTubers. And I appreciate it. I really do. I don't take support lightly just because I felt lonely a lot of the times of my life and felt like I had no support. So when I truly can see that I have support, and people reach out to me just to say that, hey, you're doing a good job and we see your videos, and they like and they share and they comment and all the things, I really do appreciate it. So continue the support. It'll keep me going to just be consistent in this, like the Lord told me to. So thank you guys, and I will see you in a couple of days.